At my husband's will reading, his mother smirked and said, "Everything belongs to me." The lawyer smiled and replied, "Actually, he left you a special message." Her smirk vanished as soon as she read it. I never imagined my life would feel like a courtroom drama, but here we are. I was married to my husband, Lucas, for 10 years. We had a happy life together, full of love and laughter. We worked hard to build our home, but there was always one problem: his mother, Maria. From the start, she disliked me and never hid it. She often said, "You're only after his money," even though Lucas and I built our life together. Maria wanted to control him, like she always had. She was demanding, manipulative, and harsh. She treated Lucas like a child who needed her permission for everything. Lucas spent years trying to earn her love, but she only treated him well when he did what she wanted. When he married me, she saw it as betrayal. She hated that he chose me over her. Despite this, Lucas still loved his mother. I never stopped him from seeing her, but I was always the one comforting him when she hurt him with her words. He hoped she would love him like a real mother should. Then, 6 months ago, Lucas passed away. It wasn't sudden. He had been sick for a long time. We had time to talk and plan, and one thing he made sure to take care of was his will. He knew his mother would try to take everything from me. And now, here we were. I sat in the lawyer's office, my hands clasped, my heart heavy with grief. Maria sat across from me, dressed in an expensive black outfit, acting as if she were the one who lost a husband. She had barely spoken to me since Lucas died, except at the funeral, where she sneered, "It's only a matter of time before you're out on the streets where you belong." She truly believed that. She smirked as the lawyer prepared to read the will, certain she would get everything. The lawyer cleared his throat. "To my beloved wife, I leave our home, our savings, and all of my personal assets." Maria's smirk faded, but she quickly composed herself, assuming she would still get the money, stocks, and investments. The lawyer continued. "To my mother, Maria, I leave." He paused, then picked up another piece of paper. A small smile played on his lips. "I leave this personal message." Maria frowned. "What?" The lawyer slid the letter across the table. "Lucas left you a letter." Maria grabbed it, her expression tense. As she read, her smirk vanished completely. Her face turned red, her hands clenched the paper so tightly it looked like she might tear it. Her lips moved as she read, then suddenly, she slammed the letter down on the desk. "This is a joke," Maria hissed. I leaned forward, my heart pounding. "What does it say?" The lawyer remained calm. Lucas wanted to make sure his final words to his mother were clear. To my surprise, the lawyer handed me a copy of the letter. I took it and started reading. As I did, my eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from pride. "Mother, if you're reading this, it means you expected to take everything from my wife, but you need to understand something: you never controlled me, and you will not control her. You spent my whole life trying to manipulate me, making me feel like I was never good enough, but in the end, I found peace knowing that I had built a life with someone who truly loved me, not for my money, not for what I could give her, but for me. You never gave me that love, and because of that, I owe you nothing. Everything I have goes to my wife, the woman who stood by me when you never did." The room fell silent. Maria's hands shook as she shoved the letter away. "This is absurd," she snapped. "He didn't mean this. He was sick. He didn't know what he was saying." The lawyer sighed, as if he had been expecting this reaction. "Mrs. Caldwell, I can assure you your son was of sound mind when he wrote this, and as per his wishes, you have not been left with anything." Maria's face twisted with rage. "This is your doing," she shouted, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You turned him against me." I finally spoke, my voice steady. "No, Maria, you did that all by yourself." She stood up so fast that her chair almost fell over. "This isn't over," she growled. "I'll fight this. I'll take you to court. That house should be mine. That money should be mine." The lawyer leaned back, unfazed. "You're welcome to contest the will, but Lucas made sure it was solid. You'd just be wasting your time and money." Maria glared at him, then at me. I saw the fury in her eyes, the disbelief that she had lost, that she had no power here. Then she spun around and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the empty space she had just left. Then, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Lucas had finally stood up to her. Even in death, he had protected me. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. Because what happened next was even worse. Maria stormed out of the lawyer's office that day, but I knew she wasn't finished with me. She wasn't the kind of person to accept defeat. She had spent her whole life getting what she wanted through fear, lies, and cruelty. Losing to me, a woman she always looked down on, was something she couldn't stand. I had barely made it home before the phone started ringing. I ignored it at first, but after the fourth or fifth call, I picked up. Maria didn't bother with small talk. "You think you've won, don't you?" Her voice shook with rage. I stayed silent. She let out a bitter laugh. "You have no idea who you're dealing with. That house, that money, it should have been mine. You were nothing before you married my son, and you'll be nothing again soon." I swallowed hard, keeping my voice steady. "Lucas made his choice. You need to accept it." She scoffed. "We'll see about that." Then she hung up. I told myself she was just angry, just trying to scare me, but deep down, I knew better. A week passed, then another. Things were quiet, too quiet. Then, one morning, I woke up to an eviction notice taped to my front door. My heart pounded as I tore it off and read it. It claimed that the house, my house, didn't legally belong to me, that it still belonged to Maria. That couldn't be right. The lawyer had said Lucas's will was solid. He had made sure I was protected. I called the lawyer immediately. He was calm but serious. "She's trying to contest the will. She's claiming your marriage was fake, that you manipulated Lucas while he was sick. She's saying the house should go to his closest blood relative." I felt sick. "She can't really do this, right?" He sighed. "She can try. She won't win, but it's going to be a fight." And it was. She dragged me to court, making wild accusations that I had tricked Lucas, isolated him, and stolen everything from him. She cried on the stand, pretending to be a heartbroken mother who had been pushed aside. I sat there, my hands clenched, my nails digging into my palms. I wanted to scream the truth, that she had never cared about Lucas, only about owning him. But I stayed quiet. I let the lawyer do his job. And in the end, the judge saw through her lies. The case was thrown out. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A few days after the court ruling, I came home late one night to find my front door slightly open. My stomach dropped. I knew I had locked it. I pushed the door open slowly, my hands shaking. The house was dark, too quiet. And then I saw it. My living room was destroyed. Furniture flipped over, pictures smashed, papers scattered everywhere. Someone had been here. I backed out of the house, my fingers fumbling to call 911. The police arrived quickly. They searched the house, but whoever had done this was already gone. Nothing valuable had been stolen, only ruined. This wasn't a robbery. It was a message. I didn't need to guess who had sent it. The police couldn't do much. No signs of forced entry. They said, "Do you know anyone who might have done this?" I stared at them, my hands still shaking. Yes. But I had no proof. And Maria wasn't done. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Strange cars parked outside my house at odd hours, my trash cans knocked over in the middle of the night, dead flowers left on my doorstep. I barely slept. I felt like I was being hunted. Then, one evening, there was a knock at my door. I checked the peephole. It was Maria. Every instinct told me not to open it. But I was done hiding. I opened the door. She smiled. It wasn't a warm smile, it was cold. "Enjoying the house?" she asked, her voice smooth, mocking. I didn't answer. Her smile widened. "I'm not going to stop. You know, you might think you've won, but this isn't over. You took my son from me, and now I'm going to take everything from you." Something inside me snapped. For weeks, I had been living in fear. But now, standing in front of her, I felt something else. I felt done. I stepped forward, closing the space between us. "Listen to me, Maria," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You've already lost. Lucas saw the real you. No matter what you do now, you will never win. This house? It's mine. My life? It's mine. And you? You have nothing. You did this to yourself." For the first time, I saw something in her eyes. Fear. Just for a second. Then she sneered. "We'll see about that." She turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. But I knew she wasn't finished. And I was right. Because the next morning, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. And what he told me. It changed everything. I barely slept that night. Maria's words echoed in my head. The way she stood on my doorstep, full of hate, promising she wasn't done with me. And she was right. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. "We have a problem," he said, his voice tense. I gripped the phone. "What now?" He sighed. "Maria just filed a new lawsuit. She's claiming Lucas had a secret will, one that leaves everything to her." I nearly dropped the phone. "A secret will? That's ridiculous." "I know," he said, "but she submitted paperwork, and worse." He hesitated. I felt a chill run through me. Who? There was a long silence. Then he said a name I never expected. Lucas's best friend. David had been Lucas's best friend since they were kids. He was the best man at our wedding. He cried at Lucas's funeral. I trusted him. And now, he was helping her. I called him right away. He answered like nothing was wrong. Hey, he said casually. Tell me this isn't true. My voice shook. Tell me you're not helping her. There was a pause, then a sigh. Look, he said, I don't want to be involved, but Maria made some good points. She said Lucas changed his mind before he died, that he didn't want to leave you everything. It felt like a punch to the stomach. That's a lie, and you know it. She has a document, he said weakly, and I saw Lucas sign it. Rage filled me. You're lying, or she's paying you to lie. Silence. That silence told me everything. I took a shaky breath. How much? I whispered. How much is she paying you to betray your best friend? He didn't answer. I hung up. I drove straight to my lawyer's office. He was already looking through the so-called new will. This is fake, he said right away. Lucas was careful. He wouldn't have written another will without telling me. I clenched my fists. So how do we prove it? He pulled out the real will. The signatures don't match exactly. It's close, but not perfect. We'll get a handwriting expert. Then he paused, frowning. But there's something else. He turned to his computer and opened a file. Before Lucas passed, he made a video. He wanted to make sure his wishes were clear. My heart skipped a beat. A video? He nodded. He asked me to keep it, just in case. I think now's the time to use it. He pressed play. And there was Lucas, staring straight into the camera. He looked thinner, tired, but his voice was strong. If you're watching this, it means my mother is trying to take what isn't hers. Tears filled my eyes. Lucas kept going, his voice steady. Maria, if you're sitting in a courtroom right now, trying to lie your way into my estate, listen carefully. He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes sharp. I knew you would do this. Maria's fake will? Worthless. David's lies? Useless. Because Lucas had beaten them even after death. But then, he said something that changed everything. Lucas took a deep breath. Maria, I know about the money. I froze. The lawyer's eyes went wide. Wait, what? Lucas's voice turned sharp. I know you stole from me, from my father, from the company. My heart pounded. What was he talking about? Then he said something that made my blood turn cold. I know you paid David off years ago. I sucked in a breath. Lucas knew. He knew his mother and best friend had been working together long before he died. Then, he held up papers, proof. I found the accounts, he said, the secret transfers, the missing money. You thought I wouldn't notice, but I did. I couldn't breathe. She had been stealing from him, hiding money, moving it through secret accounts. And Lucas had been watching. Then, he smiled, a cold, knowing smile. That's why I set a trap. The video ended. The room went silent. Then my lawyer let out a low whistle. Well, that changes everything. I swallowed hard. What did he mean by a trap? He stood up. I think it's time we find out. We searched Lucas's emails, his records, and what we found? It was huge. Bank transfers, fake documents, bribes. Maria hadn't just been trying to steal now. No. She had been stealing for years. She drained Lucas's father's estate, moved money through fake companies, laundered thousands. And David? He helped her. I sat there, stunned. So what do we do? My lawyer grinned. We don't just fight back. He picked up his phone. We destroy them. The next day, we took action. We filed charges against them, fraud, theft, conspiracy. Maria and David were about to face serious trouble. That evening, Maria came to my house one last time. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. Call off your lawyer, she begged. Let's make a deal. I stepped closer, looked straight into her eyes. No. For the first time in her life, Maria knew she had lost. She had always thought she was in control, that she could lie, cheat, and manipulate her way to victory. But Lucas had outsmarted her. Even after death, he had set the trap. And now, the truth was out. We found everything: bank fraud, stolen money, fake accounts. The proof was overwhelming. David wasn't just a liar, he had been helping her cover it all up. My lawyer didn't waste a second. He turned everything over to the police. And then? We watched as their world fell apart. It started with the IRS. They froze all her bank accounts, investigating every stolen dollar. Then came the police raid. That morning, I woke up to sirens outside Maria's house. The news spread fast: Maria Caldwell under investigation for financial crimes. I stood by my window and watched. They dragged her out in handcuffs. Her face, once so smug, so full of arrogance, was pale, empty. She looked around, desperate for someone to help her. But no one was left. David tried to escape. The police caught him at the airport. He had a one-way ticket to Mexico and $50,000 in cash. Too bad for him, he never made it past security. Maria's trial was brutal. The evidence was undeniable. Stolen money, fake documents, bribery. Everything was exposed. But the best part? Lucas had left another video. This time, it was for the courtroom. It was longer, sharper, and full of proof. I'll never forget the look on Maria's face when the judge played it. Her own son exposing her in front of everyone. She gripped the table so hard her knuckles turned white. She looked like she wanted to disappear. The judge didn't hold back. 15 years in prison for fraud. David got 10 years for helping her. A month later, a letter arrived for me. From Maria. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. The letter was short. You think you won, but you're nothing without Lucas. You stole him from me. I'll never forgive you. I read it once. Then I did something I knew would haunt her forever. I sent it back. Unopened. Maria lost everything. Her money. Her home. Her reputation. I sold the house she fought so hard to take from me. Used the money to start fresh, somewhere new. And as for me? I lived. I healed. I moved on. Because in the end? Lucas won. And that was the best revenge of all. Please leave your comments. We're looking forward to your comments and channel subscriptions. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching till the end.